started this one, and basically started as just a very basic patchwork. I wanted a very French country look. We had this line of yellows and blues that just lend itself to that French country feel. So,
and what's the name of the quilt? Because that's
Picnic in Provence.
Yeah, I think it's a great name.
It's really a nice name. And I started very simple with some basic 9 patches and things like that, and it just wasn't feeling kind of special enough. So we kind of talked about it, and then we started playing with some appliques. So it ended up with these cute little petals.
And when you look at the quilt, the thing that I really love is the way that you've used the colors, because look at the pathways that have been created with this
right,
quilt.
And from the beginning, I was trying to do a trail with the darker blues. And like I said, it just kind of evolved then by adding the petals to soften it a little bit, a little more French country feel to it.
It would have been more of a grid without the appliques.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell me about the components then of the quilt. What do we need to do to build it?
Basically, it's 2 very simple blocks. We have 2 simple blocks that are basically 9 patches and a variation. And then we do have some half blocks that go in the outer edges, but we'll walk you through that as well. And we're just going to focus today mostly on this block because this is the one we're going to be putting our applique on.
Okay.
So this is our center 9-patch framed block.
Okay.
So first we're going to need to cut our strip set.
All right.
So you need to cut one of your center strip set, which is 2 yellows and the blue.
Okay.
Let's get this straight. And if you've stripped it really nicely, then you've got that nice straight seam, which you get to check once you've done all your stripping.
Exactly.
Then you're going to do 2 of your blue, yellow, blue combination.
It looks like you're handing these to me to sew.
I'm going to hand these to you.
I can do that.
So first you're going to sew 2 together, nesting those seams so you get a perfect connection.
I love to do that, so let me just scoot over here a little.
And one way to really get that nesting nicely is to always press your seams opposite directions in each set of strips.
And you know what I do too is just as you lay one on top of the other, you not only nest them, but I pull them against each other so that
really
there's resistance there. So it's not it's going to be a tight fit.
That's where you get those perfect little intersections.
And we would suggest, now he's using red thread just for purposes of TV, but generally we use kind of a gray or cream medium tone so that you can use it throughout the quilt. You don't have to keep changing your, with the dark blue and the yellow, you don't have to keep changing your thread. A medium thread will do just fine.
And you might even use some pins to put these together. I don't usually, but that works pretty well.
That nested very nicely. So then you're going to press that seam.
Sure.
And you're going to press your seam allowance to the center, right? To the center row.
Well, she did it the opposite way.
Oh, no, either way.
I mean, the nice thing about this is because we're framing the block, it really doesn't matter which way you choose to press that.
Right, okay.
Because it's gonna get taken in a straight seam. So you're gonna do the same thing again.
I can do that. I love working with these colors.
They're so fun to work with.
And I'll just get our borders set out here.
It's really nice with those blues too. That 9-patch really starts that trail that you've got going in that quilt.
The origination of it.
Now we're going to put on our frame. And you're going to start with your sides.
And these would be the vertical, right?
These are the vertical, right and left.
Okay. I actually like to do it this way.
Everybody's a little different.
I
like to sew with the border on the top.
And I probably should, but I got so used to trying to watch where my seam allowances are going.
And it's nice, too, to be able to see the seam sometimes to make sure it goes under the presser foot instead of getting flipped up.
Right. That's why I do that. Okay.
And you can just do the other ones, so you can iron them both at the same time.
Can you hang out at my studio and help me?
Sure.
That would be awesome.
This would be lovely. It goes a lot faster when somebody's handing it to you.
Let's see.
The strip quilting in the blocks makes it a little faster construction.
Oh, sure.
And you also get a tighter seam, I think, when you start nesting. And we like to use a lot of strip quilting when we're working with 4 patches and 9 patches. And
well, especially when you're making so many quilts. I mean, you can
right.
do a lot of quilts for samples for market and for the fabric companies and things like that. That's awesome.
And on this, you're going to press your seam towards that border strip.
Okay.
Good thing she told me that.
I like to do that too.
You're not. The other thing is, then you don't. You're not ironing back onto so that's right. It is the way you should do it.
Then you're going to put your horizontal frames on your border of the block.
Right.
Yeah, flip it around, Joe.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I do things backwards sometimes.
Sometimes backwards is good. This is also the block we're going to set our appliques on, so it's really nice we have those long edges. You're not laying appliques on as many seams.
Oh, true. I didn't think of it that way. That's important. I should have used pins on this seam, but we don't necessarily do our best work here, but it suffices. So.
And it's nice for others to know that it's not always perfect every time we sew.
Oh, it's hardly ever perfect every time I sew, but I try.
I think the greatest invention was the 1/4-inch presser foot. So you do, and you always should test. Once you start a project, it's always good to test your 1/4-inch. If you have a presser foot with that, it's wonderful, but double check, make sure it's the size you want, because you do want a consistent seam, especially in our other block where you're building out the pieces. Every little smidge of that seam is going to add up.
Well, and to not change feet in the middle of the project, because then your accuracy is just thrown out the window.
Right.
Yeah, I had the same problem here.
Luckily, we have a finished one.
So through the magic of television,
we have a lovely square already done with this frame. And to note, now you've done your 9 patch, which is, with your strip quilting. That is the same basic steps we use to make our other patchwork blocks.
That's the first thing that I noticed was you have 2 different blocks, but they're, made very much the same way. So, you've got this 4 patch, and then, in the corners, you've got the 4 patches repeated, but you've got a 4 patch, then another 9 patch, and then you're just, 25 units.
Right. And in the pattern, we do incorporate, again, the strip quilting for both your 4 patches and the 9 patch. So the directions are very well illustrated and clear so that you can step right through it. This block will be really easy.
This really is a quilt that a beginner could handle.
Absolutely.
I mean, it looks more complicated than it is.
It really does.
I just wanted to make sure that
very impressive when it's done.
Yes. So what's next then?
Next is our half squares.
Okay.
And the reason we don't, it almost looks like you could cut this right in half and accomplish your half, but you have to have a seam allowance.
So that's why we're going to be sewing this together.
Well, I want to show, because what happens here, if we were to just cut this right in half on the diagonal, like as this fold is, you see what happens there? There is not, here's a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance.
Past your point.
Right, beyond the point.
Because you want a point there.
Yes. And you're not going to have that if you try to sew this.
Right, you're going to sew your 1/4 inch is going to be in here, which means there's going to be no point.
Right. So this is a very easy way to accomplish that.
Right. So what we have here then, and we're going to have you stitch this for us too, Patrick.
Trust me with that.
So this is going to be how this
goes. So this would be next?
These two go together.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of the triangles. They match up. You just have to be a little careful.
Right. It makes me a little worried just because I would think, they're biased. One edge of them is biased, but that's not what I was sewing.
Right.
So I wasn't stretching it.
Right. I'm just going to press it this way.
And then, like she was telling, we press towards the dark fabric so that when you're nesting, it's going to fit.
Okay, so then that's going to go.
I would be tempted to do this, but you can't. You want to do this.
Right.
You want to do that first.
Right. And again, everything in the pattern is very well illustrated, and it'll walk you right through it.
I have two of you standing here with me. I can do it right. Yes, it is sliding, and I just want to make sure that I do it more accurately.
And I think triangles can be very scary for people, and that's why the whole quilt isn't triangles. But on the edges, it's a good practice.
I can remember, when I started quilting, being afraid of triangles, but after I made the first two, I'm like, why did I let that stop me? Yeah. Okay.
So then that's your center, and then you just add and we'll just visually look at that. So you're going to add these to each end then.
Okay.
To get that corner.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and stitch this?
Sure.
Yeah, let's just finish this up.
The other nice thing about this pattern is when you're putting your triangles on, you've got a nice corner to match up there, so you're not worried about how much is supposed to hang over, because you've got a nice square there to start.
I'm not used to having to drop the presser, so that's my problem. Okay.
Perfect. So now you've got that lovely triangle.
And there's our, really our seam allowance right there.
That's
exactly.
Okay.
Now you're going to do the same steps we did on the other, putting your edges on, but we're not quite done. You have to cut off your little tails here, which is just getting that 45-degree angle from your ruler, sliding it up to that, keeping this edge straight.
And you'll see where the 1/4 inch is right on those points.
I want to make sure because this one's pulled up a little
bit.
So let's, sometimes you have to tug on the
tug a little bit. Yep. There we go.
Pretty close.
So we're just going to take those edges off all the way through, and it'll clip your dog ears and everything all in one step.
Okay.
And you've got that beautiful angle.
That's a really slick way to do that. Awesome.
Right. And you have a seam allowance.
Yes. Okay.
And did you have half? Okay. So now we're going to show you how to just kind of where these place on our quilt, just so you have a reference. So sometimes it helps to just visually see it. So here's our side, and these are all on the right and left side. And then this is from your other block, which is constructed the same way, and directions again are on the pattern, but that's going to be your top and bottom block. So that's how those get placed in there. Okay.
I hate to admit it, but I've never made a quilt that's set on the diagonal. So this is interesting to me, and I'm starting to see that it's not difficult.
It's not difficult at all. And okay, so now that we have these blocks put together, we're going to do our applique. And I think I'll start with this. We'll measure later. So I switch out my irons. I have a cute little applique iron. We have 2 applique pieces to trace. You have your larger piece that you're going to cut from your fabric, and this is just for ironing purposes to get your seam allowance pressed down. So with this, we just place it on your fabric. I use a chalk line to just trace around there. You're going to trace 154 beautiful petals.
And you do these all individually, not layers of
I
fabric?
don't like to stack my fabric, especially for pieces like this that have such a point. You just run the risk of things shifting and whatever.
Sure.
So
the more layers, the less accuracy.
Right.
Yeah, so I do trace them each and cut them out. So then you have a shape like this. And what we're going to do then is I put a starch just in a little bowl. I've got my paintbrush. And you take your smaller piece and set it inside so that you can see there's a 1/4 inch around, and you're just going to paint.
And what is that piece that's in the center there? What is what's it made of?
Oh, it's just a regular template material. You can get a heat resistant because we are going to iron on it. So, and it's a lot of pieces, so the heat resistant does hold up better than just a regular template material. But you just paint on the edge here your starch, and that starch is going to hold your seam in place after you iron it because we're going to apply these.
It's also easier to, once the fabric is damp like that, it's going to be easier to curve around that template plastic.
So I'm just going to move this out of the way. So in ironing these, I usually start at the point because your template material will slide a little bit. So if you start down here, John, will you hold that? I'm happy to. I got a little tangled. You're going to want to place your point. There you go. Thanks. And just, it turned off on me. You're going to want to place your point and iron down your end. And then just fold this one over.
And this is even, really beginner applique.
Yes.
This is not anything that's difficult. I know that especially hand applique can be pretty daunting. Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I didn't talk about was with this quilt, we decided that we wanted a turned edge because it was more of a traditional looking quilt.
Sure. And
you certainly could do it with a smaller type and do an iron on kind of raw edge applique, certainly. And
use a buttonhole stitch or a back
stitch. But we decided we wanted this turned edge look to it. And as much applique as on it, I was a little overwhelmed, and I was kind of lazy. I just didn't want to.
Okay, you can say that.
I'm sorry. Well, there's a time element, that I had a deadline and I needed to get it finished, so I didn't want to have to do the whole thing. So anyway.
Well, and there's also the fact that the two of you work in different locations.
You do, right.
So you did the pieced quilt top, Joni, and you sent that on to Melanie, who did the applique, and then she had to send it on to a long-arm quilter.
So we incorporated her into the applique process.
And that's great because there were a lot of hands on this quilt.
Right, and so this is what you get once you have it all ironed down. The starch folds it, you get a nice folded edge, and then, like I said, I didn't want to have to hand stitch all the way around. You certainly could, but I brought in my long arm quilter, and we discussed how to do it to kind of make it a compromise, so the process would be a little faster for us. And
so what you did was just stitch part of it.
So I'm just going to stitch part of it by hand.
So we can, just...
But you do have to do some measuring here to line up. Joni's going to show you.
You're just going to use your edge point to point, a straight line. You're going to get that 45-degree angle for placement. And you're going to do a straight through this point diagonally. And now you're going to know where those petals are going to sit. We marked a 1/4 inch on either side of that point so that you know where the point of your petal needs to be, and that keeps you out of that really thick seam allowance. When you're hand stitching, that can be very difficult. And then you're going to place your petals.
So what I did was, here's our point, and we center the petal on that line Joni drew, and I pin it from the top because we're not going to actually sew on that end. And then I pin it about a little less than halfway, and that gives me a guide then of where I'm going to sew.
So you're just going to sew around the point.
Right.
Here, down, and back up.
And then those are left free on the quilt.
Exactly.
So let's step back to the design board and show how those, they sit freely on the quilt top, so that when you sent that to your long armor, she finished your applique work for you.
Right. I think that's awesome. I just did the points on all, so they were securely placed. So then she didn't have to have any pins in her machine. I mean, that was part of my concern, was in a long arm machine, you don't want to run into a pin. So I secured them, and then in her process of long arm design, she worked into, she
does that by hand. Yeah, so she just did all the outlining. That's awesome. I think just the fact that you were able to figure this out, long distance and work with each other and work with the long armor, that's awesome. I think this is a beautiful way to do this quilt. I think it's a beautiful quilt. And I want to thank you guys for being with me, Joni and Melody, and thank you for being with us also.
Grab a pencil, tips, and other useful information coming up next. Well, Mary, lots of quilters are knitters too. I don't happen to be one, but I know a lot of them. So this little yarn row counter, knitting row counter, will be familiar to a lot of viewers. And so Melanie Edwards from Waterville, Maine, says that she was working on a quilt with tons and tons of pieces, more than she ever made before. And so she used this to keep track. Well, I need 300. I've made 200 or 95 or whatever. And I sometimes, use my calculator for the same thing, but then it's a solar calculator when it goes away.
That's right.
So this would enable you to keep track and count as you make batches. So it's very clever.
Really, and I just write it on little sticky notes
and lose them.
Right. So this is a refresher on bobbin winding. If you could show both of the photos, Mom. Eleanor Knowles Dugan from San Francisco said, if you start making a bobbin by hand winding, it can cause a lot of trouble because it's not even. And so instead, put the thread through a hole in your bobbin, and start winding with the thread exiting from the top. Halfway through, stop, click the thread, smooth with the top of the bottom, and no more tangles.
So I think in this picture she's putting tension on it.
Exactly.
And then,
with her hand, just pulling it up by hand.
Yeah, it's clever. I think this is great. This is from Barbara Tracy from Westchester, Ohio. And she says, did you ever get to the end of your project and need a little bit more fabric and forget where you got it? So she keeps all her receipts with the project till it's completed. And so, I think it's kind of hidden here. It's, 200 and whatever. It's like you might want to hide the full amount there, or just keep it in a personal place.
After you're done, burn it. No one can find how much you spent. Okay, and then if you've got junk mail that comes to you in the mail, you probably do, and you're making a little wrist pin cushion, which I really like. You can use these junk credit cards and these little promotional things as the bottom of your wristlet pin cushion. It'll have hook your hand. Yeah, that's not what you want. So thank you to Barbara Scott from Moss Point, Mississippi.
This is so clever and yet so simple. This is from Anita Teagles from Carroll, Iowa, and this is the screwdriver for her throat plate from her sewing machine. And she gets it mixed up with other tools, so she puts a little ribbon through it so she can always find it.
That's really good. I like that. These are all really good tips, as usual.
People are so smart.
We don't have bad tips on the show. We would love to hear from you. You can send a tip to us by sending it to the address on your screen, or you can go to fonzandporter.com and send us your tip through the magic of the internet. And if your tip gets on the show, you get a 1-year subscription to Love of Quilting magazine, which is pretty good.
Yeah, the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right. It was great to do the tip table with you, Mom, as usual. I know it's a big favorite part of the show for a lot of viewers.
It is, and we enjoy it too. We love sharing all these great tips, and we're always amazed at how we come up with always new things. It's great. So keep them coming.
See you next time.
Additional quilting ideas from Marianne and Liz are available in Fonz and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine. A 1-year subscription contains 60 or more projects, easy to follow step-by-step instructions, and our tips, techniques, and shortcuts. In addition to the magazine, you'll get a DVD containing all 13 shows from the 2800 series, and 2 additional booklets with extra projects, tips, and techniques. The cost is $29.97. To order, visit our website, fonzandporter.com/2800.
You can visit our website for free quilt tips, so easy quilting lessons, and slideshows of spectacular quilts.
Download free quilt patterns,
see supply lists for TV projects,
join our quilting community, and more.
Log on to fonzandporter.com.
Funding for Love of Quilting is provided by
For over 40 years, Baby Lock has been dedicated to the love of sewing by creating machines for quilting, sewing, embroidery, and serging. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Koala Studios delivers sewing furniture custom built in America.
APQS long arm quilting machines allow you to express your creativity. APQS. Quilt easier. Quilt inspired.
Springs Creative, a supplier of fabric for the dedicated quilters, is proud to support Love of Quilting.
We present people on the show that our listeners may not know about, yet after meeting them through a conversation, we're really happy that they had a chance to do the interview.
I knew that Francis, who cast me and went through great pains to cast me in the part.
It's very hard to dislike my husband.
He was really.
And maybe.
Are you an actor?
No, I'm not.
Then it's none of your business. No,
I'm Terry Rose, Rush Air. Weekdays at noon on 89.9 FM.